Welcome back to the first episode actually of the Off Grid podcast, Ep.1. Been waiting a long time to do this. I feel like I spent 2 months damn near prepping the podcast setup, but have very special guests. Since the first idea, I was like, the first episode has got to be Dad. So yeah, this is Ep.1 with my dad. You want to introduce yourself? Kind of let people know who you are for people that don't know.
I'm Ace. I'm Ryan's dad at Papavedo in the drift scene. Run the program or try to run the program with Ryan, and here we are.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're down here for FD, so we just wrapped that up yesterday.
Yep.
How was that?
That was a blast. I mean, just the level of intensity. And once you're on the inside, drifting and stuff, and you're running a program or involved in a program, and you see these guys, that's where you're trying to get. So you see
definitely.
You see the speed in the pits, you see the speed on the track. I mean, it's
kind of motivating for us.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It teaches us a lot as a low tier, pro AM, kind of trying to privateer into pro spec. Kind of teaches us a lot about, we're always taking notes every time we see something. So
you think you're really getting good and you're really getting it honed in, and you are, but for that level.
Yeah, and then you see what's next, what the guys at the next level are doing, how fast they're turning cars around and swapping motors in the pits. Shout out Freddie and the field team, unfortunately. No, it's kind of crazy because that's almost how I pretty much got you into drifting, was coming to FD Orlando when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, got me to bring you to Orlando, told me about drifting, showed me a little bit.
Yeah. Showed
me some videos on Juku and stuff like that. And
the behind the build stuff. We always talk about that with Nate and Kevin. Yeah. Shout out Nate and Kevin.
So that
obviously
was cool. That was easy to get into. And then, of course, the cars and the speed and all that. It was kind of hard to wrap your head around what is actually happening, in a battle when you first start watching it. So, you know how it is. You talk to people, you try to explain it to them. Some of them get it, some of them don't.
Yeah, definitely.
And it takes a little while.
Like yesterday in the Uber.
The Uber driver. He was one man. He was narrow-minded. He didn't want to hear nothing about it. So.
No, it's cool. So what got you into cars? How long have you been into messing with cars, tinkering with cars, building cars?
And I've been messing with cars since I was a kid. My dad was he was a preacher, but he was a mechanic when we were young. So he was, always working in a shop. And then he didn't do side work, but like anything that the VARs that broke, he fixed it. So, of course, you're the flashlight holder getting yelled at. You're pointing,
I'm still the damn flashlight holder.
Right, you're pointing it all over the place and getting in trouble. Whoops, you're getting in trouble.
Bring that down just a little bit.
You're getting in trouble for all that. And then, then you get to hand the wrenches. Then, you kind of learn as you go. Then you're changing.
That's cool.
You're actually changing parts. And then the next thing you know, you got your own car in high school and you're souping it up and you're doing motor swaps with that. I did a motor swap on my first truck. My dad didn't even know it. I put a big block in it. Me and this kid built a big block 402, and it was like the 396, 11-1.
Yeah.
Board over 30, and we put it in there. My dad needed to use my truck. He didn't even know we had done the swap. And then, of course, he takes it for a ride and he stomps on the gas and he's like, "Whoa!" It throws him in the seat. He gets back to the house and asks me what's going on. So I popped the hood on it and showed it to him.
Y'all did that in high school, or?
Yeah, that was in high school.
Damn.
Yep.
Different breed of high school. All we did was pretty much coilovers and wheels. Nobody does anything. Well, I mean, there's people that do crazy. Gallup, I think, was one of the guys that was really wrenching in high school. Gallup and Diego. Shout out Matthew
Gabe,
Gallup.
guys.
Gabe, yeah. Gabe especially was doing crazy shit in high school for nowadays generation. There's a lot of people out there, but me and my friends, obviously, you saw us. We were doing S chassis stuff and Z stuff, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
So you got into cars in high school. So what happened after that? Like, what'd you do after high school?
Joined the Navy, went in the Navy, tinkered with cars in. We had the beauty of the auto hobby shop on base, which is like a macked out shop.
People still take advantage of that. Keelan, Byron, swapping cars, drift cars on lifts.
Yeah, you bring it in there. You got alignment rack. You got racks for everybody. You got bays for everybody. You got bays where you can do long-term projects and all that. So if
it's
you go
cheap too, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's real cheap. And then if you go overseas, you just say, "Hey, I'm going on deployment. I'll be back," and you cage all your stuff up, lock it up. You come back. You get back to it when you get back. So somebody's always tinkering. Yeah, it's cool. We did some cool swaps there when I was a young Navy guy. Me and some of my buddies, we were stuffing, like V8s into like TR7s, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Little tiny shit
Just
from
crazy,
overseas.
yeah, crazy stuff. Yeah.
Did like a lot of people bring cars back? Like when you guys, because you spent a lot of time in Italy, because that's where my sister was
Yeah,
like raised and
a
born.
lot of guys bought new cars and got them shipped back because you got such a good deal. You just had to get it shipped to a dealer. The emissions wasn't even installed. A lot of times you'd get a car, the emissions package was in the trunk because it was just simple back then, small pumps and exhaust, catalytic converters, whatever. So that stuff would be in the trunk. You'd have to pay a dealer, $1,000 or whatever it was, and they would get the car prepped for you, get it inspected and tagged and all that stuff. But you got to, so you'd buy it through the Navy overseas. But as far as I didn't get to go to Japan ever, my sister, your aunt did, her and Jeff did. So, that would have been, if that would have been me, then I would have probably got into the JDM stuff then.
Yeah, Japanese stuff, old Datsuns and whatnot.
Yeah, I like the old stuff like that, but I just never had any of it.
Yeah. So Navy, and then I guess what a lot of people always ask is like, they always wonder if we're like a motorsports family, like a racing family, but you, to my knowledge, have no motorsports, no drag race, nothing.
Yeah, we did the typical teenager street racing stuff that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
We did our own version of drifting. We lived out in the country, so we had a road called Rabbit Lane. I mean, it was like, it's a famous road where I live at, and it's nothing but curves. And we would go out there in our trucks, and the deal was we didn't do tandems because we're slinging rocks. This is like gravel.
I'm dying.
It's like a gravel. It was like a gravel and dirt road. So you didn't follow too close, right? Or else you got cracked windshields and everything else.
Yeah.
But we would time it, and we didn't have phones to video. It'd be cool now, but we would like time it, see who was the fastest down Rabbit Lane, and you had to drift it, and you had to get down in the ditch, and then get back.
Y'all are trying to flip trucks and shit.
We're lucky we never did, but I mean, it was a fun time. But
that was in like the 80s or early 80s. Like when did you? What year were you in high school?
Late 70s, early 80s. And we built stuff like that, but we never did. We never like got to that level because the closest track was like Waco, and we didn't want to go to Waco because we always heard stories like this one guy went down there, had a nice hot rod, and he dripped like one drop of oil on the track, and they DQ him and tell him to go home. So we were like, we're not going there. We'll just race.
Y'all got like garage
we'll race
builds.
on Farm Road 2818. Yeah, we're dripping oil from both ends.
Oh, that's good. Well, no, that's cool. So the Navy, and then what age did you get into music?
Music always been. We've always been into that. Our whole family's into music. You know how you meet some of your aunts, especially on my dad's side. You meet your aunts and uncles on dad's side, and everybody was musical. Very, very religious family, so did a lot of musical stuff in church. I've got a couple uncles that cut several albums and stuff, gospel albums and stuff like that. And then we went down. We split at the Y in the road and went. I liked country and all that, so we always, like when I was in the Navy, we'd play in the barracks. When I was overseas in Desert Storm.
Just like acoustic stuff? Or?
Yeah, we all had, everybody that took guitars, man, we'd hang out in the common area.
Damn, that's
and,
cool.
And have barbecues and jam out. We all took turns, and then we'd
Some Zach Bryan type
yeah,
shit.
Yeah, we did cool stuff like that. And then, of
That's
course,
sweet.
I met one of my best buddies in the Navy, and we started a band, and ended up being a really hot band. We did, like the radio stations would call us for all kind of stuff, opening acts, not big giant venues, but anytime they had a thing like at the Landing or something where
Landing's pretty big, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s.
people or whatever, open concerts, Metro Park, stuff like that. So we were like their right hand band, and so we really, it was a big band, steel guitar, fiddle. It was country, strictly country back then. Now, I quit when you were born. Mom was like, you're not staying out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You're coming home and helping changing diapers.
Yeah.
So I quit then till you started drifting, actually. And then Sean approached me, my old sound man, which is a bass player.
Yeah, right about high school is when you guys fired back up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so he, Sean kind of goat roped me into coming over to the house and drinking a beer while they were practicing. He's like, yeah, we're ready to go, but we don't have a singer anymore or a rhythm player. So I was like, not really into it. So I've been out of it for a long time. So they're like, well, just sing a couple songs with us, you know?
Yeah, that's how it goes.
So I sang a couple songs with them, and then you get that itch back, you know? Oh, yeah, I remember that, you know? So
Yeah,
next thing you
definitely.
know, they're like, well, what did y'all do in your band, you know? So you break out your old set list and stuff, and they're like, well, we do 30% of that. So if we had another 30% of what you want to do now, you know, we got enough to gig. So here we are now, 4 or 5 years later, about the same time you've been drifting. And, you know, we gig all the time. We gig as much as we want.
Yeah.
Like I take the drift schedule. They already know. I take the drift schedule first. I write it on the calendar. And then I go, hey, we could do this. So let's go ahead and mark that date off. And then, of course, Sean's into camping. So Sean goes, hey,
he's into glamping, but
he's glamping. Yeah, he's glamping. So he's into glamping. So he's like, I can't do these dates. So it works out. You know, we're all old now. So we don't have egos like we want to be Mr. Cool and stuff. People like that about us. We play at places that where a lot of young people hang out. And I'm like, you know, if we're not a good fit, just let us know and we can move on because we want to play where we're welcome. And they're like, look at the crowd, you know,
Yeah.
they're here for y'all. And I'm like, oh, okay. They just dig what we do because we do a lot of new stuff and we do a lot of old stuff. And then anything in between, rock, country, southern rock, 80s, you know. So we're a good fit at a lot of places. And it's fun now. It's
less serious.
Back in the day, it was serious. You know, it was like real
Yeah.
serious. You know, we're trying to get a record deal. We're trying to do this, and we're meeting with people in Nashville and stuff, and they're telling you what you should and shouldn't do, and why they can't sign you, or what you need to do and come back later and get signed. You know, and you know you're thinking you're Mister, you know, the next biggest thing, and then once you outgrow that, you're just like, hey, I'll do it for fun, which like me and you were doing yesterday.
Yeah, just
you know,
jamming out.
We jammed out. You know, we goofed around with that one song for a few minutes, got the chord progression down, and then, you know, jammed it out real quick and, you know.
Yeah, got a video and moved on to the next one.
Yeah,
Take
which,
it easy.
by the way, man, you're kicking ass on that, on learning those little leads. Those are hard to do.
Yeah, trying.
You know, don't.
It's tricky. It's tricky. I think naturally we have a history of good vocalists in our family. We just have good tone. So singing has always been priority for me and playing rhythm. Same for you and your current band.
Yeah.
Did you rhythm and sing in the old band too? Or?
My old band, I couldn't play guitar I still can't play guitar very well. My old band, I really had a hard time playing and singing. Like when we were doing the barrack stuff in the Navy, if you screw up, you got another guy that's still playing. Or if you mess up, you just stop and, oh crap, that was a C, you know, and you continue the song. Well, you can't do that when
you can't
do
that live.
You can't do that live. So my old band, I had like really phenomenal musicians. I had Steve Stroop. He's passed now. He was in the Navy. He got his, you know, shout out to him. He got his leg ripped off they were launching airplanes off a carrier, and he was doing a final check. He was an avionics tech like I was, and he was doing a final check. The cat boss or whoever launched the plane with him still under it, ripped his leg off. He, of course, he didn't die, but he had to do like all this stuff to come back and get transfusions, and had no leg, obviously. One-legged drummer, phenomenal drummer.
Damn.
But, you know, I lost track of where I was going with that. But, you know, we just had the ultimate good musicians, you know.
That's cool.
And they were like, don't play and sing. Have your guitar on. It's your prop, you know, because you feel naked if you're just standing there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to have a guitar. They're like, oh, get the nicest guitar you want. Just
turn the volume down.
We're not plugging it in. We're plugging it in. The cord's going nowhere.
That's funny.
So, you know, because that was my job. They're like, no, you just sing. We'll play. You know, had steel guitar, fiddle, all that stuff. So it was like a very well organized band, very good dynamics, all that stuff, very good stage presence and all that. So, and then when I went to hang out with Sean, they're like, look, man, you're gonna have to spend some time and just do it because you're gonna have to do it. It's a 4-piece band.
Yeah.
So you have to play.
You got to play rhythm.
You have to play rhythm. And once you start doing it, you're like, it's funny. I don't know if you do it, but I like see the chords ahead of time. I'm singing the words. I'm watching what's going on in the crowd, you know, trying to keep the crowd motivated or whatever. And then at the same time, I'm seeing the chords of what's coming up on the next, you know, for the
you're anticipating
for the rhythm section. Excuse me.
Same kind of thing with the driving. Like, you know, we anticipate the next move, and I think maybe that's what helped me with even picking up music and the guitars. You get accustomed to like thinking about what's happening before it's happening.
Yeah.
And when it comes
that's
to
good. I mean, I guess that's
especially
you've gotten really good really fast. I mean, I'm not saying that because you're my son, but
appreciate that.
You know, like Jimmy was my guitar player. He was GIT graduate. You know, that's like a college out in California. All the master guitar players in the world teach there. They're the professors.
Yeah.
This guy is like phenomenal. You're talking about musical theory, guitar theory, you know, pentatonic scales, everything on the neck. He knows it. So he was that guy, you know. So it takes a lot to get there. And when you're getting there, if you got it, you know, it's like everything. If you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
You're never. I'm never going to be that kind of guy because I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm a good singer. You know, everybody tells me I'm a great singer and all that. Had some opportunities that I passed up, you know, because I was in the Navy and I was married. But yeah, we can move on from the music
Hell
thing.
yeah.
You know how it is. It's all just
Yeah.
it's part of our life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty big chunk. I mean, if we're not at the shop, you're either playing or I'm playing with you guys. I've played a couple gigs now, so that's exciting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a different feel.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of like you put this suit of armor on when you get up there because you got to tune all your emotions and stuff out.
Yeah. It's really similar to driving, I think.
Probably.
Like when you get out there on grid at a big event, like big or small, but just knowing that you're driving, you're performing in front of people. Like, you know, you have a skill. You drive OSW public days, you drive the sim, you practice, you do it. But then you now have to display that under the most pressure in front of an audience.
Yeah, it's like a big stage.
Yeah,
you know, it's
the track is our stage.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing because I'm sure you get the same adrenaline rush and the same feeling.
Yeah, which is good because I talked about it on Nate's podcast, like, because he asked if I get nervous playing music live, and I was like, no. But I think it's probably just from drifting, like, especially prioritizing drifting. Like, nothing will ever. If I don't get stage fright drifting, I'll probably never get stage fright with anything, because that's what I'm worried the most about.
Yeah, like your first gig that you sat in with us. You know, Kevin was like, "Wow," he just went up there and started jamming, and it wasn't perfect, but it was like you didn't even let it show that you were probably up there pooping, you know, shitting razor blades.
Yeah,
you know, we call it.
That's pretty calm.
Yeah.
It's pretty calm, and it was at our buddy Brad's like little housewarming party for his big ass mansion.
Then you played one at his bar too, didn't you? Didn't you get up there at his bar?
Played one at the bar for your birthday, actually.
Oh yeah, my sneak,
cool.
You know, my trick.
Left my guitar here.
Yeah.
Had to use the telly.
Yep.
And I usually do acoustic stuff, so I was like, oh, this is awkward. But
yeah.
So moving on from music, let's talk about drifting. What obviously when I was 12, 13, I got into drifting through video games. Forza, Assetto Corsa, watching Adam when he first got started. And then our buddy Gabe at Jabe, everybody should know Gabe. Yeah. A lot of people won't know this. This is probably the first it's going to get talked about. I grew up with Gabe. Like, when I was 6 years old, like, I was playing MW2 COD with Gabe, like, in my bedroom. Yeah. Or in our little game room.
Because he's Levi's
friend. So Gabe grew up with us. He skated with my older brother, same grade. They went to middle school together.
Went fishing in the old ponds around the neighborhood.
Yeah, I caught a catfish with Gabe one time in that pond right by OPJH. We would go back there with those Oscar Mayer hot dogs, and you throw it in there, and you get some damn big ass brim. Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up with Gabe. Ironically, people like don't know that. They don't understand like our history and banter. But dude, it literally goes back to like that dude taking pizza rolls out of the oven for me while me, him, and Levi were playing COD in summer of 2010, 11. So yeah, Gabe brought us out to, the first drift event we ever went to was when we spectated at Green Cove. A lot of people don't even know about Green Cove because it's been shut down for so long. Green Cove drag strip, kind of just like a straightaway into like a big circle, which now that I think about it, like, I don't even know that I would want to waste tires driving there. Yeah. But local.
With a low powered car, you probably have a ball because you just.
Yeah, it's like a wide open circle
all day long.
Yeah, and the entry's fast. I mean, I'm sure it was cool. Yeah. Alan totaled his car there. I don't know if you remember that. Yep. But yeah, so Gabe invited us out.
Concrete barriers, safer barriers or whatever them things are called in the middle.
It was K-rails or whatever.
K-rails, yeah, K-rails.
But yeah, so we went out there. Gabe brought us out. Like, he told Mom, he was like, hey, you guys should come out. So we watched it. And then I think that day on, it was like, hey, we're going to get into this. And then we went to FD shortly after that. FD Orlando 2016. I want to say it was the second year they did it. Don't quote me on that. I remember Osbo won. It was Osbo and Kristaps in the finals with
Yep.
the white and red E46, and Osbo had the TC back in the day. But so you went to your first FD. I kind of want to know, like, obviously you weren't. There's no way that you were sold on us getting started and investing into drifting that early. So at your first FD event and seeing it, what was your like initial kind of impressions and like, how did you take it all in? Like,
Well,
because
that's a good question, because when we went out there to Green Cove, there was a bunch of shit boxes out there. You know,
100%.
Gabe's out there working on his car. He's like, first time I've seen zip tie mechanics. You know, he's zip tying everything back together. He's gonna wrap around cables around his damn fan belts and stuff on it. He had the S214 S14,
yeah.
and
S13. He had the hatch, the copper hatch.
Yeah, he had the hatch
with the CA.
Right, and it's the first time I got up close to a car like that with panels screwed into the side with sheetrock screws that look like, in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, damn, they're making this from a distance. It looks great. You get up close and it looks like it's got sheetrock screws holding on body panels.
All the rivets and stuff. Yeah.
So I'm like, and then what's his name showed up? The kid with the white car that was
Steve Schaefer.
Damn,
Schaefer Steve and I are, it's cool that we got cool with Steve.
Yeah.
He doesn't drift anymore, but man, Steve.
He shows up. I'm like, dude, what's this?
LS dog box.
Yeah.
This is in 2016,
yeah, I didn't know
2015.
what a dog boxer was or nothing. I just figured it had an LS with a T56.
But this is like a local track day. Think about that.
Yeah, this
like
Green
10
Cove.
years ago, local track day,
Yep.
non-pro driver pulling up with a LS1 with a damn dog box.
Yep.
At that time,
rear-mounted
dude, like,
radiator. I mean,
yeah.
I was like, wow, I thought it was cool. So that, I was just like, yeah, these kids are just having fun. They're getting these piece of shit cars out here. I didn't even realize that they were welding the diffs and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, yeah, they're just slinging these cars around, doing controlled chaos is what I thought they were doing. And so then we go to FD. You talked me into going into FD because you really weren't into anything. And then all of a sudden you were just like, you're like a gamer. Yeah, it
should be noted that I had no, like, leading up to it, you wanted one of the kids to get into cars, and I wanted nothing to do with cars.
Yeah,
I still barely want anything to do with cars. I just want to drive. But
yeah, right. Come out and help me pump the brakes.
Yeah, I'll bleed the brakes and I'll bleed the clutch. But other than that, I'm inside.
So then we, you were getting into it on your sim and stuff, which you had the old basic.
Just like the Logitech.
Yeah, Logitech.
Mounted to a little table.
Exactly.
Playing Forza.
And then I don't remember how you got me into going into to go to FD. It was me, you, and David, wasn't it?
The first year, I think, no, it was just me and you. Yeah.
Maybe Paul.
No, it was just me
Paul
and you
didn't
the
go.
first
Okay,
year.
so it was me and you. We go up there, and then we go in the pits. And that's when I went, wow, look at this shit,
Yeah.
Everything is high tech, especially after working on airplanes, everything's organized under the hood, AN fittings, AN lines.
Ray cam wiring.
Yeah, nice stuff, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, you're looking at these $250,000 drift cars. And that was your like second drift event. You went from like Green Cove to seeing like the highest end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and then at that same time, I'm building this high end first gen Camaro in my garage.
Yeah.
With the LS 3, Texas Speed LS 3 with a T56 and all that, and then I was like, man, I could really put some of that. You know how me and my brother are. We build cars. We've sold a lot of cars like at Meekum and stuff like that. We build have built like real high end restorations, and our deal was doing swaps that made it look like factory.
Yeah.
And then you get into the racing scene, and you're like, man, these things are machines,
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah,
like,
it's a tool. You don't need it to be looking like the factory put it together. You need to make it look like a race car. It's got to be a race car.
Serviceable.
Right, serviceability and all that stuff. So, I ended up and then all of a sudden you were like.
Well, after FD, I would say you were pretty like, okay, we'll get into this. Like,
yeah, I was like,
what made you even think that? Because I feel like,
because I was like, you're finally wanting to do something with cars. I was like, dude, these cars are like stock cars. And then by then you had already told me, yeah, you make them be able to spin out like that by welding the diff. Everybody welds the diff. Oh, okay, no, we did that back in our day. We didn't. It wasn't that common, because positive tracks were real big back then still. So you didn't really need to weld a diff, like, make it a locker. But yeah, I was like, it's, you know, you convinced me that it was cheap. You know, get a cheap car. We even bought
We bought a $1,500 running and driving S14.
Yeah.
So that was gonna be the first drift car.
Yeah.
But then even you, to your standard, you were like, "This thing's a piece of shit."
I was like, this thing.
I don't even want to.
The problem with it was
there was a little bit of rust on the.
That's what it was
on that pillar.
The car was buildable, and it wasn't
C pillar
compared to some cars now. It was a really good car.
Yeah, it's like a $3,000 S14, $4,000 S14 now. But
I think it was a convertible. I mean, not a convertible, but a
sunroof car. It was a sunroof
so
car.
remember, it had gotten that water back in the back, and I saw some rust. I knew that thing was just going to start coming apart. So we ended up getting rid of that, and then you didn't even have a car for a minute there.
We got it as a project because it should be noted that I was like 14 when we bought that car.
Yeah.
We were under the impression that we couldn't drift at the track until we were 16, which I think now I don't think you need to be 16.
Yeah, but it was a rule at OSW
at the time,
and your birthday,
and it might still be.
And your birthday, unfortunately, falls way after the season starts. Remember?
Yeah, it's in August.
So you didn't turn 16 till, you know.
Yeah. So at 13 or whatever, 14, we got that white shit box, and then we sold it to our buddy Diego from high school. He bought it.
Yep.
It changed the fuel filter. It was running great.
Yeah, I made it run perfect because remember, we barely made it home in it. I drove it home.
Yeah. Well, then it sat, though, and I remember it ran like shit when he bought it.
Yeah, it did.
Then he swapped the fuel filter, and it was fine.
Yep, it fired right up, started running good. Yep.
And then, so we sold that, and then we didn't sell it first. We got the red 240 and then sold the white one.
Yeah, because we had two 240s in the driveway.
Yeah, because we were looking around. Yeah. We got that red one. It was a KA car, super, super clean. ISR suspension. It had Fortunato's on it. Mid interior.
Yeah, it was the perfect car, you said, till we got it home. Then you're like, okay, all we need to do now is SR swap it, do this, do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So
we got that. That was supposed to be like a drift car only. Like, we had no intent of me having any kind of. We weren't even thinking about me getting a daily because I was 14, 15. So we got that car. We did a storage unit SR swap. That was your first time doing any kind of swap on any.
Yeah, and I made it in the same nature that we were talking about doing cars. We made that swap look like it came up from the factory like that.
Yeah, it was clean. Even Gabe said it. He was like, "This is like one of the nicest SR swaps."
Yeah, so we had AC,
cold AC,
everything worked. Did it real nice. The guy that we got the SR swap had everything, so I just
we got a turnkey SR swap for $2,500.
And then I looked at some videos you showed me, so I saw where they were doing the turbo stuff for the intercooler and stuff.
Yeah,
and
the tiny ass battery.
All fit perfect, like it was turnkey. I mean, like it was.
Yeah, because he gave us the intercooler and everything.
Yep. And then we just put a little Miata battery in there in the front.
Which, hindsight 2020, we should have just relocated the battery.
Yeah, we should have.
It's such a that thing always wouldn't start if it sat for like 12 days.
Too small of a battery. Yeah,
tiny ass battery.
And it had some parasitic drain, on the starter or something. So.
But yeah, so we got that, and then I got my license, and we picked up a super cheap 350Z from a family friend for $2,000. And at the time, like, Z's are like $10,000. I mean, we're talking like 2016, 2017.
Yeah, we got it for like
it was $2,000 with the body kit.
And then they gave
us a Rep Nismo kit.
Remember, I talked her down. I said, "Look, this thing's a piece of crap, but we'll take it." I said, "I can fix it." I said, "I'll give you $2,000 or whatever." And she goes, "Okay." And then they go, "Well, don't forget the body kit." We didn't even know nothing about it. They started bringing out this
replica Nismo kit, which I sold for like $800.
So we got that. We did I think we did like coils on it and plugs, and had oil down in the wells.
Yeah. We did like a just typical tune-up. Yeah. All the coil packs and spark plugs.
And
it didn't misfire.
We ended up had to put we didn't do anything to that car besides that. And then
it was at paint forever.
We sent it to paint.
Your buddy John.
That's why you started driving the S14. That's right.
Our buddy painted it for super cheap, and then it was there for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I had already got my license, and I was like, you're just gonna have to drive the 240. So I'm stoked. I'm driving this SR swap, Vertex kitted out S14 to high school. But then, we spent the summer. That previous summer, me, Gabe, and Gio, we all went batshit crazy. Every single night we were street drifting, like in controlled environments, not like takeover shit. Like if you know Jack Spot, CT,
when you're talking
Pritchard,
Jacksonville, you got
FBI, all the Jacksonville
you got
spots.
the Mexico spots. That
Yeah.
are,
So we spent almost every single summer night. Gio at the time was working at Discount Tire. He would take all the freebie tires that he could get, mount them. That night we would go. I'm talking like 5 days a week. We were out at Pritchard, FBI, and CT for probably we would get there like midnight, stay out there till like 3 a.m. And Gio was learning how to drift in his G, and Gabe had the green coupe, but I don't think he ever brought it out. He would always ride out there. We had Jeff Solinger, who passed away, actually. Rest in peace, Jeff. He had the white caged hatch. Gallup would come out. But, yeah, so it started off that in the summer, all this summer night street drifting. And then in November, I had already been driving the 240 for like 2 months. We took it sliding at one of those spots, and I rod knocked it like 50 minutes away from the house.
Standing on the damn.
I thought I was playing the sim. I didn't know that you had to like monitor temps and oil pressure and let shit cool off. And I was just being an idiot, and I went slap ass crazy with the stock SR car and
Windowed it.
Yeah, windowed it. Shot a rod through the block. What's
was
crazy
a
is
good motor,
it didn't window until we got it back to the neighborhood. We drove it all the way back. I don't know if I called you. I think I called you, and I was like, we're gonna try and drive it back.
Yeah.
Because and so Gio drove it back because I was scared. He was like a mechanic car guy. So I was like, Gio, you drive it back. You're way more car savvy mechanically. I drove his G home, and then or his Z at the time, and then in the neighborhood it windowed the block, like just coming down the road.
The only thing I can think of with you saying that, because I don't remember you talking about that much.
But it was knocking hard the whole way.
Oh, it
home.
was. Yeah, if it was already knocking that.
It was done.
It
was done.
Knocked it,
No, it was done. And then Gio got it in the neighborhood, and it like literally popped the motor. Like it just windowed the block. And then you came out the next morning. I remember the front of the house. But yeah, so got that. And then what I'm getting at is we traded it to Geraldo Garcia, our buddy, Rice and Beans Parts. Our buddy now. We didn't know about that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So we traded it because we saw Adam, Ginge, and Taylor. That's when the whole proximity thing started with the Z's, and they became like the craze.
People were like, you. I didn't really know nothing about it. You just kind of started. You started.
Well, because I was watching Adam on YouTube.
You were feeding me information from what you were learning.
And I was like, Dad, dude, these Z's are like, they're just driving them every day.
Yeah.
Like 50 to 60 laps a day. And all they're doing is oil changes every 5 events. And so I was like, I want a Z. And we had already had the streetcar Z. So I was already like a Z owner. Mm-hmm. And then we traded it for $2,500 plus the S14. We didn't take anything off the S14. It came with the whole SR, the trans, even though it was blown, all the turbo shit.
He got a good deal.
He parted it out, I'm pretty sure.
He got a good deal.
And then he put a sick Jay-Z in it. Yeah.
Because that car had arms on it. We don't use the same arms anymore, but it had like voodoo arms.
No, it had ISR arms.
Did it have ISR arms on it?
You talking about the Z? Or
yeah.
The Z had voodoo arms, and then we got the ISR arms.
Yep.
But yeah, so we traded it for $2,500
plus the car. For the Z.
For the Z. It had a handbrake, coilovers, voodoo arms, and that was it.
Yeah, it was already.
It wasn't gutted or anything.
Wasn't
it? Me and Gio gutted it in the driveway after school.
Yep.
And then that's.
We switched the arms to ISR because we.
Not at first though.
Not at first we did.
No. And then we took it to. We prepped it, which was like minimal prep, and we took it to the first drifter event, Spring Break Bash.
That's when you got me into drift. That's when you got me into the program, and you were like, "All we need to do is go down there and take 4 tires." Mom's like, "What do you got to buy 4 tires for?" I'm like, "We're gonna burn them off." But started explaining to her what we were doing. She's all in because we're.
Oh, she loves it.
Well, she was all in even in the beginning because it's like people are like, "How do y'all do that and why do y'all do that?" And we're like, well, all of our kids have been good at something, just like most families. And we always gave each kid the tools and the financial backing to get as far as they could go with something. Levi, we did that with Levi. I mean, they drug you around for years with his ball, playing ball, always had the best equipment, always spent, weeks out of town, week at a time out of town doing travel ball and all that stuff. When he was playing with Prospect and all them guys, Lexi, same thing, so we were like, we were like, she was like, well, he didn't want to do anything else. We'll see how this goes, you know? And, you know, you're looking at OSW from the outside in and you're like, okay, they're going to go there. They're going to have fun. Cause we went to spring break bash. So you were like,
2019.
Yeah. You were like, well, you just go to spring break bash and then they have events. And I was like, well, that's cool. So we go to spring break, get the car ready. Like you said, we had one extra set of rims.
Literally 4 tires.
Yeah. 4 tires.
Open trailer, just the car, no spares. Barely any tools.
Nothing. Yeah, no spares.
You don't need anything.
Well,
it's
we took a toolbox and a jack.
Yeah. But you don't need anything else to Z.
Yeah.
So how was that? Like, you know, what did you think going to the first event, watching me drive?
I was proud, you know, as a dad, you know, because you were playing the sim, which I didn't realize the value of the sim at the time, you know. Just like a lot of guys still don't know the value of the sim.
Yeah, man, the old heads that compete.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying.
The future is now.
You go out there. It's you, Geo. All three of y'all had G's.
Me, Geo, and Gene.
Y'all
all
had three
Z's.
had Z's.
Yeah.
So you go out there.
All of our high school buddies.
And out of the 3 of y'all, you know, not because you're my son, but you look better. And then
just the sim practice.
Yeah,
is
just
all it was.
from the sim practice, right? And you go around and Nick Swan's like, "Hey, kid, what size tires you got on?" And you're like, 265. He's like, 265. This your first time drifting? So the next thing you know, Nick's telling you like little different shit, you know, every time you do
that was really, really cool.
Yeah, every time you do a couple laps. And he actually came up to me, and I think he actually posted on his Instagram because y'all had got me an Instagram. I didn't know crap about Instagram.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Facebook or Instagram.
He's like, yeah, I met this kid out here, you know, and that's why I do this shit, you know. I tell him to do something, he goes out and does it. Comes back, I'm like, perfect, kid, now do this, you know.
Which is cool because he just posted the same thing years later about T-Pain at the LZ World Tour. Yeah. T-Pain had like done something in his run, and Swan was like on grid. He was like, hey, you know, forget what he said. He was like, calm down, relax, do this. You're killing it. Just adjust this. And then sure as shit, T-Pain goes out and does exactly what Swan says. Yeah. And you see him T-Pain giving him the thumbs up from across the track after the run. And it's cool.
And that was you.
Swan's that kind of guy.
Yeah, and that was you there at OSW because you were linking the track by the end of the first day.
Yeah, second day.
Was it second day?
Yeah, it's a 3-day event.
Yeah, so probably the middle of the second day. And then,
which was cool, really, really cool.
Yeah, because you had more fun because you weren't recovering from a spin out every time you took off.
Yeah.
You know, so you're linking.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no, that's
getting it is fun.
That's how you learn. But once you link it, it's like hitting a baseball for the first time. You know how to do it now.
Yeah.
Something in your brain gets triggered and you go, okay, now I can link this track. So
just figuring out the muscle memory. It's just like when we adapt to a new track, you know, just the timing of everything.
Yeah. So that's where we got started. And then, you know, you run into people as you started getting better, you know. I don't know how far advanced.
I would say the first year was the most rapid growth.
Yeah, because we went all the way to clutch
really
kickers,
exponential
right? At the end of that first year.
Yeah. The first year in my 4-year drifting career was probably the most exponential growth.
Yeah.
From like having never done a donut to like competing at clutch kickers. That was all in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think for a little while it plateaued almost. Like, I don't know. I think it was a lack of, you get comfortable. And I see it in like a lot of local guys that kind of become like A-class veterans. Pat and I were kind of talking about this a little bit. You get like, there's like a lot of guys that get comfortable and they get in a position where they're like kind of one of the local hot shots. They stop driving so much. They stop coming out to public days as much. Yeah. But then that comfort, like someone else is building when you're not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what fuels me a ton is like anytime that I'm like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Like I don't want to go to the gym. Like I just remember that while I'm sitting on this couch, like somebody out there is getting better. Yeah. And I can't stomach that thought. Like whenever I'm like, oh, I don't want to play the sim today, or I've already been playing the Texas sim for 5 days. You know, I don't need to do it again. I'm like, somebody that's showing up to that event is turning laps right now. It does. The thought of somebody working harder than me for it, like pisses me off.
Yeah, because like you said, once you got through that first comp season, thanks to Nick Rod, remember?
Yeah, Nick was like, "Yo, just go out there and do it." Like,
he goes, because if you keep getting good, and then all of a sudden you want to do pro-am, and you're sitting in grid, and you're scared to death because you've never competed against anybody, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
He's like, go to clutch kickers and learn how to do it.
Because he said that happened to him. He was like, I went to pro-am and I was shitting razor blades. Yeah. He was like, I've never been in that position.
So go out there and learn how to do it. And we had a good time the first,
season
people
one
were like,
clutch
dude,
gears
who is
was awesome.
this kid? You were ripping that little Z out there. It was a perfect track for that Z.
It was so cool. Clutch kickers, when it was like its original thing, was just something else.
And now that we have the car that we have now, or the cars that we have now.
Damn, down
Guys
flex
like-
on him, I guess.
Guys like Taylor and Alec Honadell and all them guys that were going out there, man, kudos to them, because you really have to change a car up a lot.
You learn how hard it is to drive a powerful car on a small track.
Yes.
Me and Tommy talked about that.
Yeah, man, those guys, they were having a tweak on their cars to get it to just be able to drive that track.
Yeah. Gearing, alignment.
Way too much power.
A lot of left foot brake, but a lot of controlled left foot brake to keep it on track and not fly off and fill the zones without overcooking it.
Yeah.
1,300 horsepower cars on these like tiny ass track.
It'd be nice if somebody would buy a piece of property and just replicate that exact
It was a cool
layout.
I think it could be done even better.
Yeah, it could.
I mean,
it could.
we need someone to do that from scratch.
Yeah.
Shout out Ozzy. We need to get some of that going down here in Orlando.
Do some of that tax write-off and get a little action going.
But yeah, so started with clutch kickers, and then I would say we did clutch kickers we did all 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of snowballed. Like we weren't like, at least from my perspective as, the driver and son, like we weren't like ever, we were just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Like as I got better, we upgraded the car. As we had more money and met sponsors, and we upgraded the car.
That was key. When we got sponsored a little bit, that's when we were like, okay, or I was like, okay, if they're willing to throw money at this program or parts and help and all that, then I'm willing to do it too. You know what I'm saying?
At what point did you realize, like, because obviously you were, from the get-go, you were like, I'm going to give my son a shot at this, like, see what he can do. But just to explore it, because we've talked about it before, initially, like, you didn't think, like, I would become who I am, the driver that I am. It wasn't like, oh, he's going to be, like, some
He's
pro
going to be
driver.
the next greatest thing, yeah.
So, like, what, and I'm still not,
Yeah,
we're at our infancy.
You never think that, yeah.
But I know that we're going to get there, so I don't let it phase me.
Yeah,
We're at the first step.
Yeah, we're optimistic. We're not, it's nothing automatic in this shit. Yeah.
We're not optimistic. We're possibilists.
Yeah, possibilists.
But so at what point did it go from like, oh, I'm supporting him and like we're doing this, to like, I don't know, at what point did you start believing in me as like a competitive driver? Not that you didn't never believe me, but at what was, there had to be a turning point where you were like,
I believed in you a lot. And when you went up against Kevin at Clutch Kickers, and Kevin, you beat Kevin, and it's part of the game. Kevin made a mistake, and you capitalized on that, and you beat him. And Kevin's a great guy, man. I mean,
we just hung out with him yesterday.
Yeah. So, that's when we got the opportunity with ISR. When we got that opportunity, obviously, I jumped.
That was the second season, though.
That was the.
We did the whole first season with the red
season.
car.
That was the end of the first season.
I don't think so. I think we did the whole season 1 with the red car. Maybe not, but I don't know.
Whatever it was, we got the car done by the last round of whatever season.
Yeah, with
did.
the V8 swap.
Yep. So when that happened with ISR, I just went, okay. Remember, I had an LQ9 on the engine stand that I bought just to have it, because me and my brother were doing LS swaps and everything that we built.
Bring that a little closer just in case it doesn't pick it up.
So I said, shoot, I got an LQ9, had a set of PRC heads, Texas Speed heads, which I love. We use them on everything that we build.
Still use those.
Even those same heads on the Smetty motor.
Yeah.
So I had that. I got a really good deal on that, and it was just sitting there. So I had seen where Taylor was giving away a cam at Clutch Kickers.
Yeah, comp cam.
So I called up to Comp Cams and talked to this guy named Dustin, and he goes, "Yeah, I know Taylor." I said, "Well, look, we don't want to use that cam, that I think it was called the NSR cam.
Yeah, drift cam or whatever.
You didn't have to swap the springs on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, we want something a little more aggressive. I'm doing this LQ9, blah blah blah. He goes, I'll make you a cam for it. I'll make you a custom cam for it. So he gets me the cam, and I've built a lot of engines, so I did, all the right steps, made sure we had piston and valve clearance and all that was right. Measured the push rod length, with everything set up like it's supposed to be. Ended up that we needed, as always, it seems like, never the standard push rods work. So
yeah, especially on the Smetting motor.
Yeah,
those long
ass
push rods.
Those are pretty long push rods. So got the custom push. Well, I didn't get custom ones. They just happened to have that number from Comp Cams on the Magnum series. Put that in there. Put the motor in there. ISR supplied us with all the stuff.
Yeah, that was their the initial sponsorship was like,
so
hey,
I
we'll
was
give you
just like,
everything
if they're
you
in,
need
I'm in.
parts-wise.
You know, if they're in, I'm in. We get a pallet of stuff at the house. I'm like, crap, hell, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, so we did all that, got it all prepped, got it in the car, and that
was about the time like that you were like.
That's when I hurt my shoulder, remember? And I had to get Cody to help me. I was one arm in it, like I had a stroke almost. I tore a nerve in my brachial plexus or whatever it's called. So anyway, we got the swap done, and that took the car to another level. But that still had a CD009 and a stock rear. But we had I think we did a couple events with the stock diff, and then I went ahead and got the gears to make a 408.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I don't remember what
we did. We put a 408 in it
at some point
on Matt's advice.
Yeah, shout out
for
to
the power. Yeah, for the power level that we had in the gearing we had. So in the trans.
So that was like when you. That's when
the
ISR shit is when like you were like, all right, this is getting serious.
And
like,
I wasn't sure how serious it was going to be, but I ran into dang it, what's his name? It's early in the morning, so I'm bad with names. The kid's dad, it jams. It came down to my birthday.
JC
comes up to me, he goes, my kids are wanting to do this. Is it expensive? I'm like, it's not too bad. You don't think it's not too bad. This is the first day we're testing the car too.
Yeah, it was the private day with the LS.
Yeah, Adam and them were out there, and we couldn't get the car we couldn't get it to drive right, but we had way too much toe in. We didn't know nothing about it.
Yeah, we were silly.
Whole different power level deal. We didn't
bad spring setup for the heavy V8 and no, you know what I mean? We just didn't know any experience.
But
you know, we build up
at the end of that day. If he'd asked me that question, I would have gave him a different answer because we went through 5 sets of tires that day. Testing. And I was like, ooh, this is a little bit different here.
Different level, though. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, no.
Me and Pat talk about this. Like, people make drifting expensive. You don't have to, like, if you can't afford it, like, you don't have to say, oh, I have to build, like, a dog box V8 car and run the Pro-Am.
This is strictly
There's other series out there, like the Gambler 235, that allow you to build, like, a way lower budget car and do even more sick driving than like anything here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The 235
I'm just
Gambler
talking about this level of drifting type stuff. Like you said, that one in Gainesville, what's that called now?
Well, it's not in Gainesville. They did a round there.
Oh, they did a round
East
there.
Coast, you talking about?
Yeah. So that right there, dude, you take a good solid 350Z out there. That's built nice. You know,
I don't know if you're keeping up with Fellow's car though. Fellow's car on that 235 was like the fastest thing anyone's ever seen.
Yeah. But that's how it was at Clutch Kickers once the pros and all that got their cars dialed.
Yeah, once you figure everything out, it's hard for there to actually be like an equalizer. Yeah. Like even Clutch Kickers, like by the second season, like it wasn't really an equalizer. Like the big cars still showed out.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense. Now that we have like a high horsepower dog box quick change car, like no matter where we go, we can gear the car for the track. We can put all the power down and make all the grip. And now we realize, like, when you have all three of those pieces, it's like a pyramid.
That's how them guys.
When you have all three of those, like, there's nothing really that's going to be an equalizer, in my opinion. Like, I feel like Clutch Kickers was the closest possible thing, and we still realize that, like, at the end of the day, it wasn't that much of an equalizer. It was enough of an equalizer to make a significant
in the beginning
difference.
But then, people with programs like Taylor Hull, Taylor Ray, Adam, and all them guys, they showed up. Alec, they showed up, and the first day they looked like they couldn't even drive. By halfway through that day, you know, we don't know what they did, but we know now they probably did.
Yeah, it's like when we go to a track and I can't even link the course because the gearing's off.
They did several gear changes and tweaked the suspension and all that. Next thing you know, they're ripping the track.
Yeah, because it's not a bad driving thing. It's like you just got to get the car to a point where it's max effort drivable. Like when we went to Texas.
Yeah.
Figuring out the gearing and the grip setting for the weekend because, like, you know, especially from grinding the sim, you know how to drive the course in this perfect virtual 350Z. Now you need to figure out how to get the real car to just feel like that. Mm-hmm. That's how I, like, approach events now whenever...
Yeah, because we changed gear, 3 times?
Yeah, and then we ended up going back to,
and you gave each gear a good chance, a fair chance.
Yeah, I mean, once once you are comfortable, like you know right out of the gate if it's enough gearing or not. The second, like at Texas, the second you hit the first, it's technically like a touch and go, but it felt like an initiation point. Whatever. As soon as you hit that and then hit the first enter and rotate and get into the power alley, you know if it's enough gear or not. Like you're like, you know, like, okay, I'm already hitting limiter. Like we need to go up.
And you were running what, fourth there? You geared it to run fourth?
We did that, which we normally do 3. So that was a change for us. But it's easy because it keeps it in 3 and 4. And it's like having a sequential, even if you don't have a sequential. But okay, so yeah.
So we got to that level. And then here we are. I mean, you know,
just snowballed.
Yeah.
Really.
But like you said, we did kind of plateau. We were like,
I feel like for 2 years, like nothing
when clutch
happened
kickers
with
disappeared, we were like, what do we do now?
Yeah. Well, there was that year at the Freedom Factory, which
Yeah.
that's when we got the big motor, the dog box, no quick change.
No quick change.
But the big motor and the dog box,
Yep.
which hindsight 2020 is so silly. We had like a 550 horsepower motor and a sick GSR, and the car was never truly a ripper because it was always, you had like an 80 mile an hour gear and 125 mile an hour gear.
We would have been better doing a quick change first.
Yeah, like
if you can't do
a
both.
quick change with the LS2, like 400 horsepower LS2 dog box quick change would have been miles more effective.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
And it wouldn't have been on limiter everywhere like it was.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what I'm saying though is if you couldn't have done the trans, at least do the quick change, because now
I don't know how can you even do a quick change with a stock trans? Is that even?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're just connecting them with the drive shaft. I mean,
I guess,
so you know what I'm saying. So all you
I don't work on cars.
you know what I'm saying. You'd have more options. You know, like when you go on the skid pad with a stock Z, you like to run it in what, third?
Second. You can't do third.
Oh, that's right.
You
run
have a
it in
436
second.
or whatever.
So say that's what the case was, and that's where you wanted to drive at, or second or third, then you would just change your quick change just like you do now, because your dog box, you don't change the dog box gears.
Yeah, you know what your gear ratios are. You calculate it based on.
So
the
I mean,
tire
I don't
height.
know. I'm not a driver and I'm not an expert, but I'm looking from the outside in. If I had a chance, if I was building my, because most people do like we did. We don't have crazy money to throw at stuff, so we build it a little bit,
little by little,
as you
brick
got
by brick.
as you got to where the car wasn't performing and what you needed to do. Then we were like, okay, we got to do this, So in my mind, looking back now, I really think a quick change, if you can't get both and you're
it's priority.
mid power, I think the quick change is more.
To put it into perspective,
That's probably
we were never super competitive without the quick change at all. We got the quick change in almost every event since we got the quick change. We've won
One or podium.
or podiumed.
Yep. Done
And
right.
and not much changed in my driving from like right before that to like now.
Yeah.
It's just like being able to put the car feeling like it wants to be in the right places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having usable power all throughout the course. I didn't even realize how important it was. And Hasm just asked me the other day. He was like, "Why is it like so important to have a quick change?" And I was like, we were on the sim, and I was like, "Hasm, let me give you an example. We're driving the track. I was like, we both use 140 or 152 miles an hour. The sim wheel speed's a little skewed. It's always way higher. We're like driving a track at like 150 miles an hour. I'm like, now imagine this is the perfect wheel speed that we use when we drive this track. Now imagine I make you gear the car for 125, and then you have to chase me. Your run, you are going to be fighting the car to do what you've been doing on the 150 mile an hour wheel speed, where you're nailing the zones. You're just rolling through the track perfect. The gearing is perfect. You're right in the power band. I'm like, now gear it down another 20 miles an hour. Try and do the same run. You're going to be awkwardly trying to extend certain corners, eating limiter certain places, which, as you hit limiter, you start to pull yourself out of a zone because you're just, you're losing wheel speed.
Losing grip, yeah.
So, and then he was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's crazy advantageous to have a quick change. It's like the cheat code, I feel like. At least for me. But yeah, what I was saying is it kind of felt like for almost like 2 years, there was like not much progress in my driving. Just felt like there was not much progress, and the program didn't grow much because I stopped really grinding out media. I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, there was a spot where you kind of, not to hurt your feelings, but you kind of just like, you didn't give up. But in my mind, I was like, right, he really don't give a shit, and I'm not gonna go, hey, let's put this and this in the car if you don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
I think I got burned out a little bit.
Something happened where you got like laser focused, And I remember you had this conversation with me, and you said, I'm fixing to switch up. I'm getting my shit together. I've been fucking off too long. I'm fixing to go, I'm going from A to B, and I'm not getting sidetracked. This is what my goal is. And when you did that, you started doing
It was
way,
right when I moved
that's
back
before
to
the quick
Jax.
change too.
It was right when I moved back to Jax.
Yeah. Yep. And
I
then,
came back to Jax for like a mental reset. Because
Yeah.
I remember I called you and Mom like crying. I was like, I don't know. I was in like a weird space for sure.
But when you did that, your driving improved 100%. And then all of a sudden, that's when we got into that season, and we were like, okay, the car's not doing what we needed to do. Again, we were at that level again. You got to that point where we're like, okay, what do we need?
I didn't say it. Freddie told us.
Yeah. And
After
Fred,
round 2, Freddie was like, if you don't.
Because I don't like to spend money. You know what I mean? Freddie's like,
I remember he looked at you and said, if you don't want to put a quick change in this car, but you want to show up to the next round, he said, put $5,000 on the table and light it all on fire.
Yeah. So
or whatever he said, burn it or
some
something.
analogy to that. And
he's right.
We just went, and I said, we got to do a quick change, So we reached out to Rise Fab. Rise Fab hooked
it up with the subframe and everything.
Yep.
And the Bulldog. The Bulldog was ordered through them, right? Or,
yeah. Yeah, because he works with Rick, so it's got an RTS thing on it. But him and Rick they do all kind of stuff together. So
no, that's when stuff really started to propel. Whenever
so you got focused,
mentally,
and then now and
we
then
got
you
the car dialed.
Once we dialed the car to the next level,
it's
now
been
the car's
pretty
a machine.
good climb. Yeah,
It's car's a machine.
Steady
motor,
up.
that Smetting motor is, dude, that thing.
Let's talk about that actually, because so many people. I mean, I post about Jacob quite often in Smetting Performance, that engine guy on YouTube. That's the guy that built our 416 almost 4 years ago now, 3 years ago. It's literally gone, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't wrench on the car that much, 3 years and it's only gotten oil changes, right?
Yeah, because you did 2 seasons together. You did clutch kickers and Pro-Am.
Yeah, like 10 rounds.
And then have we done 2 more seasons with Pro-Am?
Yeah, we did 2 Pro-Ams with it.
So what happened was we blew up the LQ9. I bought a LS3 from a guy out of a Camaro. It was, supposedly, and I was going to run it. It looked good. It was a long block. So I pulled the heads off. Everything looked good. So I ordered a cam for it. Got Dustin, that guy from Comp Camps, to make me a cam. I thought everything was good, man. I'm like thinking everything. I took a shortcut, which I normally don't do, and I didn't check piston and valve clearance and stuff. Put the cam in it. Went to turn the motor over to do I was already putting I already had the heads on and was putting the dadgum rockers on. This is how stupid of a mistake I made. And I was on that head, and I was like, man, I went to turn it, and it just stopped. And I went, oh, crap. And I had everything in it. I had
I would have hated to have been in the garage that night because you
I
get
didn't
so stressed out.
I didn't flip out because I just
no, but you get stressed.
I just went, you dumbass.
You get overwhelmed.
Nobody was there, so what am I going to do? Talk to myself? I'm like,
you do
dumbass.
though.
Yeah, I'm like, you dumbass. So I take it apart. Dustin's like, don't worry about it. Just send me the cam back. Check this, check that. I had a damn degree wheel, and I was checking every angle that he wanted me to check and all this stuff. And I got frustrated, and I said, you know what? Well, I got frustrated because when I was changing the cam out, I noticed the cam bearings didn't look that good. They looked good, but they were, LSs like to eat up cam bearings. So I was like, crap. I said, you know what? Screw this shit. I'm just going to rebuild it. So I don't even know how I got on there, but I started goofing around on YouTube, and I had already started following this guy called that engine guy. That engine guy, which is Jacob. Billiman. So, man, I was just like, dude, this kid is meticulous. I'm like, and I figured he was an A&M grad because I grew up in Texas, and his brother was in the Aggie Corps because I've seen him in a couple videos where he had his uniform on, cadet. So I was like, this kid is the shit, So I, on a whim, I just kind of reached out to him and said, hey, we're starting this little bit more serious father-son program, and I've got an LS3, and or 6'2". I just said a 6'2", and I want. I'd like for you to consider building it for us. And he was like, I'm in. So I
Which
was
was
like,
really cool.
Just getting a response back, I was like, what? So
He's a good guy.
So yeah, we made the arrangements, and I sent him the motor. I had already sent the heads off to Texas Speed, and got them redone, and did their deed on them with the CNC, their stage 2.5, and I already had that done. And he built me a cementing short block, man, and he was just like, he guided me the whole way. He said, I want you to use these, Johnson link bar lifters, short travel, axle oiling, and then I got with Johnson, and they told me, the old guy there, he's like the head guy. He's like an old school guy. He's like, if that's an all aluminum motor, give it an extra few thousandths here and there for this and that. Measuring the push rods, push rods ended up being like 7.5 something, crazy. And their exhaust and intake are different. Anyway, that's just info, because I went to Manton for the push rods. And I put that sucker together, and put a nice, all the good stuff, inside and out. And,
It's been a workhorse.
Man, took it to the dyno. Had a few problems at first. Didn't know what it was. Thought it was breaking in, which it didn't really need to be broke in. Those motors that they build, you do a couple pulls on the dyno and you can go wide open after that. They're just that good. And their machine work is. And come to find out, it was just the way the car was driving. We were, even with, I got with Motion Race Works, had their top of the line valve covers and all that crap, and we're just filling up the catch can. Remember, every 3 laps. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
It was a shit show. I mean,
even during comp,
it was embarrassing.
Definitely.
And I was like, so I took the car home and I said, something's wrong with this motor. So I did.
We went a whole season.
We kept milking. Well, before that, but before that,
you're saying you invested
between rounds. I took it home and I did a leak down test, compression. It was perfect. And I was like, I just don't get it. And Jacob,
a year later, we got it.
I talked to Jacob, and I was looking at it he was looking at it, and so was I, like a drag car. He's like, well, if you're doing these pulls and you're doing that, you probably are going to get that kind of oil in there. So we're sitting on the dyno.
A year later. This is after we've got the brand new CID intake.
Yeah, we're fixing to go to the next season.
Yes, we are about to test a week from testing.
With Freddie, and
Freddie's just
we're shooting
genius,
the shit. Me, Freddie, and that kid there that works there. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
And he's like, I'm sick of this. I said, I'm looking forward to the season. The car's making great power, or fixing to make great power. We were hoping, with the new stuff. And I'm like, it's just going to suck fighting that again. The motor's healthy. I don't know why it's doing it. Freddie goes, he looks at it, he goes, well, why don't you flip the valve covers around?
Yeah, because it had that pickup or whatever.
Well, I had the breathers going to the catch can in the back,
all the way at the back of the motor.
So even though they were super, super, super baffled, there was so much oil pulling up in the top of that motor.
That and the G-forces going sideways.
From the G-forces, and it was just shooting that oil in there. And man, the catch can work great, but once it's full, it's coming out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good it works.
Yeah.
So flipped them around and just never looked back.
Yep. I think we fill up drops, drops.
We did Spring Break Bash, King of OSW. We went to Texas, and I checked it after Texas, and I opened the valve that I've got in it now, because we had to have a valve and everything.
Yeah.
We were draining that sucker. I got like 1/8 of an inch in the bottom of a bottle of water.
Yeah.
And it was more vapor, no oil anymore. So, but we already knew that. Once we fixed it, we were like, holy crap.
It was a game changer.
That was like part of our turnaround every time we came in for tires.
Yeah, which is silly, because you can't be doing that. We know now that if you've got that kind of issue, you don't even need to show up to the next event.
That was stupid.
Something good that Freddie instilled in us was the phrase "why show up." And it made us realize as a team that dude, if you don't have 110% everywhere across the board of your program A to Z, you're fucking just wasting money. This isn't. I always encourage people to start competing as early as possible. Don't be afraid to go out the pro-am with your Z. Most guys going out to the pro-am with their Z are going to have less issues than everybody else anyways,
Yeah.
Nitro Zs and stuff. But I think we kind of fell into this trap of like competing and not having the most well-rounded program, and then realizing that like you're just throwing money down the drain. Like,
Yeah.
if your shit's not together and you're not able to be fully competitive, you know, you got to show up early on to get the experience. It's the development and the experience and understanding and learning to control and maintain composure. That all comes from like just doing it a fuck ton of times, driving a lot of events.
Yeah, you've got to do a reset, and then you've got to look at it. You got to back up, and you got to go, how much, what are we doing, and where are we at, and how much is it costing us per lap?
Yeah.
And by the time you figure in, like, what's his name was showing on that video,
Derek
Madison, you know, crew, media, food, hotels, travel, gas, you know, tires, this and that. I mean, you're spending a lot of money per lap. And like Freddie said, if you're not,
if you can't win, if you can't show up with a program and setup that can win, all that calculation you just did, it's just going out the bank for no reason.
Yeah,
you're wasting money.
You're throwing money away, and
that's what helped convince you on the quick change. That was a him thing. Like he was like, you guys need this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
But on that same note, when you start out, it's really awesome to talk to guys that have, you know, Nitro Z's and go out there and kick ass on the skid pad.
Definitely.
And learn
not even the skid pad. You could do it at Sebring.
And the Sebring.
Nitrous 370Z makes like 350 horsepower.
He's making what on that HR? Like over
315, and it's a 3.5. All the 370s are making like 350 on the bottle.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, he rips with that thing.
I mean, that's plenty of power. I want to dive into something that you might not want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it. We obviously run like a pretty low budget program in terms of the scale of everything, but we bought a car it was more than a few months ago. It's been like 6 months.
December.
We bought a pretty notorious 350Z, pretty wildly known car. Are we cool with disclosing how much we spent on it? I don't care. I mean, the listing was up.
Yeah, we paid the listing price for it,
which was like 70 with spares.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
A lot of good spares.
We almost like didn't drive because we were like, we have to invest in this car with all of the money we have, and we had some people contribute and help out to make it possible. But we were like, this might delay us on anything we can do this year, but we need the tool for Prospect. So we decided to buy it.
Yeah, because at first you were against it when I first brought it up.
Oh, I didn't want the damn thing.
Yeah.
I was like, nope. I feel like that's interesting because I'm sure so many people, there's obviously a lot of haters. So I'm sure people were probably like, oh, like Ryan wants this, you know, perfect car. You pitched it multiple times
because you didn't know the backstory. You know, I looked at it like, okay,
I didn't see the value.
Yeah, we're getting ready for Prospect, hopefully. And I'm like, we're going to need a trans. You know, I've seen it. Look at Sully. Sully showed up, extremely well-rounded program. And the first thing I'm pretty sure he learned was the next thing I know at the next event, whatever he tore up, he had a spare of that shit next time, whether it was an engine, transmission, diff, whatever.
Correct.
He's got a great program. And thinking about that, I was like, that's the kind of shit you got to show up with, especially with Freddie. You know, like Freddie's like, if you're going to go to the other coast and you don't have all that crap with you, why are you going?
Yeah, because if you like let's say you blow a diff, let's say you spend $5,000 going out to Utah and you blow a diff on practice day and you don't have a spare one, you just, instead of just spending $7,000 or whatever, $5,000 on an extra diff, you just burn $5,000 because now you went out there, you can't even do anything. Yeah. You just got to drive back.
Yeah. So I looked at it and I went, okay, diff, drive shaft,
quick
engine,
trans,
bell housing and clutch assembly, engine, you know,
there's $40,000.
All that stuff, brake system, suspension. I mean, it was like you almost get the chassis free.
And it should be noted that you wanted to do this because we already drive a Z. Yeah, so everything that we had on it was literal spares.
Yeah, it was gonna. I was looking.
We were gonna have triples of all the wise fab, triples of all the shocks.
Why buy all this stuff and then why not just have a whole nother car? You know, and then. So then I talked to you about it, and you were like, I don't want that car. And I'm like, I told you about that, and you were like, well, that kind of makes sense.
I was pretty anti that car for about a month.
Yeah.
Like, you tried to sell me on it, and I was like, I don't want that car.
So then you were like, okay. And then, and that was cool, Billy.
Well, you convinced me with that argument.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, it makes sense.
And then, of course, the owner of it had a couple really good offers, people with big money that just wanted it for like a practice car for their cousins or some crap,
Yeah.
you know. And he was like, I'd rather keep it here. I know you guys, you know, are at the level where you deserve a car like this and stuff like that. And it's a really well built car. Then of course, it's not your car. It wasn't built for you. So now we're having to build it for you. So we had to throw more money at it.
Yeah, that was a learning curve for us.
But you know, Luis said the same thing when he bought the Clutch Kickers car.
Yeah.
You know, you buy a race car and it was built for. It's not built for multiple drivers. So
it's not the race car you built, and you chose to do everything a certain way, and like to do things a certain way.
So we're almost done with that. We ended up having some problems. So
we tested it. Well, we bought the car hoping that it was going to be like, we're going to buy this, and this is going to be the end all be all.
Suspension, yeah.
And then I drove it at OSW home track. I've turned probably 3,000 to 5,000 laps at that track in my life. I mean, every event I drive, I usually do 50 to 100 laps. I've probably done 50 events at OSW at least.
Yeah, because you did about 25
the first year. Yeah, between the full season and we did private days.
Yeah, we were doing everything we could do.
So I've probably done 50 to 100 events there, like total over 4 years. So thousands and thousands, probably 5,000 to 10,000 laps there. Anyways, I drove the Z. I was just like, I fucking hate this car. I was like, this thing just having a Z with the same stuff and then getting in that one. I was like, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I was just like, why does this do this? Like, I can't drive this car. Yeah. And so we went to the drawing board and got with Jack's Fab Shop, and they.
Well, you went to.
Well,
we
got it decent.
Yeah, we got it
decent. Like Freddie being an absolute mastermind and just me communicating with him, we made a lot of adjustments.
Yeah,
changed the shocks, the rear anti-squat.
We changed some shit around.
Caster. We got it to drive a lot better by the end of it. Like I was ripping it around.
Because you took it to LS Fest.
No, I took it to Fuel Fest. So we took it to Fuel Fest down south. But that was the first time getting it on like a more technical track with other cars. And I was like, first of all, this thing is slow. I was like, I can't keep up with anybody. But it's because you had to drive it slow based on the way it drove. You couldn't commit in it. Weight reasons, wanting to spin out, etc. So, yeah, after Fuel Fest, I looked at you and I was like, oh, we're gonna have to use the other car. Like I was like, it's not. I was like, this isn't it. Like I can't. I was like, I'm not gonna spend our money going to round one and be less competitive when I know that like the old shop built shitbox $40,000 car is like a championship contender car.
Yep.
So that statement, and I wasn't being rude. Like I was just like.
No, I don't look at it like you're the driver. I didn't look at it like you were looking a gift horse in the mouth by any means.
Yeah.
I was looking at it like, okay, we got this much money in this freaking car.
We're at a point where we have to make it good.
We can make it a spare car for the parts or backup or whatever, but we still got to straighten it out. If we're going to use it for a backup car, we got to straighten it out. If we're going to use it for a parts car, then we're going to use it for a parts car.
But then we would have got kind of screwed because we would have never got our money back for what we invested in.
You can't just throw money away. It's too hard to get it. It's too many.
And that was
too many people helping you along the way. You know, sponsors and stuff like that, and they expect.
Yeah, because a lot of things were organized on the contingency of getting that car.
Yeah,
like,
so
helping getting that car. You know what I mean?
So as soon as we were done with that, and it was driving like crap, I was like, screw it. I told Freddie, I said. Because Jack's Fab Shop is a real high-end shop, and they're hard. They don't just work on anybody's car. I mean,
and they got lead times due to the volume, like the work.
Yeah, they got like 6 weeks.
You don't just show up and they're like, "Oh, we can get it in next
project," and they're like, "Yeah, come see me in 6 weeks. I just put you on the list."
Yeah, they got a wait list.
So, you know, I need a catch can. Okay, I'll see you in 6 weeks. What's your name?
Yeah,
you know, kind of deal. So, Freddie knows Justin really well.
Yeah, they go way back.
And he called him and he said, well, bring it down here. So we brought it down there. I was like, Freddie's like, what do you want to do? And I said, we got to move this shit around. You know.
Yeah, so for those that don't know,
you're sponsored by Radium, so.
Yeah, we changed the entire, it had a different company's fuel system just when we bought it. Good stuff, but I have a long-standing relationship with Radium. So we used that opportunity to instantly get the car on a brand new Radium fuel cell.
Yep.
We went down to a 6-gallon cell. All their surge tanks set up, and you know their whole entire fuel system.
Yeah, the cool one that just got out, the FSTX or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so we have that now in essentially the stock gas tank location.
Yeah,
and then
passenger side, because it's got a saddle tank.
yeah, it's got a
one on
saddle
each
tank,
side.
so it's technically
yeah, so it's on the passenger side in the same spot, a little bit higher, but right there.
close enough.
Yep. And then battery moved. It was in the middle. I think we moved it to the other
Right
side.
behind
but
my
the battery's
seat.
only 4 pounds. It's got an anti-gravity battery.
Yeah.
So, and the
And
radiator,
then-
we moved the radiator forward. I mean, this thing.
The fuel cell has now been moved almost 4 feet forward.
Well, let's back up. The reason I went ahead and just said screw it and made the jump was we talked to the tech guys at FD. Remember, it was not going to pass
the
tech.
firewall wasn't going to pass
The
tech. The way the
firewall-
firewall was built, it didn't seal to the cabin.
Yeah. Yep.
So essentially, if you could imagine this in your head,
And it was a masterpiece firewall, but it
was beautiful.
Yeah. But
but if you essentially imagine if you lose your hatch, your
Yep.
firewall is just all it was sealing to was the Lexan when the hatch closed.
So you
know what
had
I mean?
about a 18-inch gap that fire could have got over
Oh, it
into
would have
the
went
cabin.
straight in.
So all that compounded, I was just like, screw it, and then I took it to Jack's, and then Justin calls me. I don't know him that way. He calls me. He's like, this is going to cost you some money, man. And I was like, give me the number. And he's like, between this and this, just depending on what we run into.
Yeah.
So.
But we did it, and it's done.
Yeah, it's almost
kind of done. You guys are buttoning up.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Testing Saturday.
Yeah.
6 days from now. Hopefully it doesn't drive like shit. If it does, it'll be on Bring a Trailer. You guys can bid on it. That's what I was telling everybody. I was like, if we can't.
It's a great car, and yeah, if it gets if it got to that point, we would have to cut our losses and just.
Well, it's one of
I
those
don't know.
things.
We'll probably
where
just modify yours to that.
It's
level.
one of those things where it's like we built our own Z, the same chassis, over 4 years. Every lap I've ever done in a drift car has been in that car.
Yeah,
I have done maybe 5 to 10 laps in friends' cars over 4 or 5 years.
Just playing around just to drive them. Yeah,
but I have done. That car is like all of my drifting experience, all of my knowledge, like the way that specific car.
Yeah, and my
The
building
weight, the
experience
placement.
towards this kind of drifting, this
Yeah.
level. I mean, that's a very well built car for what I had to learn about integrating like race car type shit into a regular car.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, that freaking radium drop-in unit for a stock Z tank.
Oh, it's the wave, man. It's the sauce.
I mean, if
I
I was
always tell people-
if I was a kid building a Z and I wanted to put a V8 in a car, I would put the V8 in it and
The
do
in-tank,
whatever.
surge tank,
Do that surge tank.
factory gas tank.
Oh my God! And you
also
can,
weight reasons.
and you can put pumps in that thing. They have it to where it'll support 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
So why would you even move that shit?
Yeah, because I mean, it's obviously all preference. There's a lot of FD cars where the cell is really far back. It's a little hard to gauge because every chassis is different.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see like a fuel cell really far back on an S chassis, it's
think-
not the best comparison when you compare it to like how ours was on a Z. But essentially, hated the way it drove. The weight was really
It was
oddly
trying
placed
to pull
and
you
heavy.
around, wasn't it? Because all the weight in the back.
Yeah.
We hope.
And then we added a sway bar, relocated the rack. We're testing it Saturday.
We made it
Hopefully
almost
drives good.
exactly like
It's
yours.
almost identical.
Except
it
for
should
yours-
just be sick,
Except for yours is a front mounted radiator.
which I think is the best thing ever.
But we moved your radiator and we moved that fuel cell. I didn't measure it, but I bet you it's every bit of 3 feet.
Yeah, for
forward.
sure.
It's in the
I mean,
stock.
it was 1.5 feet behind the axle, so
Yeah, it was if you crushed the bash bar, you were smashing the tank. So it is way farther forward now. The radiator's forward now. I think the radiator is either right over the axle or forward of it a little bit. I think it's
Yeah.
right over it. But I think Chris Jackson told us that Jeff Jones runs a stock tank in his, cut
Yeah,
in
they-
half,
yeah,
where he's using the passenger side only of that cell.
yeah, something like
So
that.
similar to that setup.
Yeah,
So we feel like it's going to work.
yeah, we'll see. We got a front row seat. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll know in 6 days. We'll test it. We'll do some oval runs because that's where I can push a car and like know whether like I'll do a couple skid pad runs, but I'm not just like when we thought it was decent and then we took it to Fuel Fest on a bigger track. I was like, whoa. So it'll be interesting to see. We use the old car at LS Fest, which I think there's a misconception because I was talking to somebody, multiple people on Instagram that were asking, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're taking the old car to LS Fest? Like, why are you using that? Like, it's a disadvantage." Just for the record, that our little garage built car is a smaller motor, makes the same power but more torque. everywhere.
Yeah.
From bottom to top, makes more torque and it makes the same power
That
everywhere.
thing rips, man.
So the only difference is it's a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
Like it's got, the GSR, the quick change, decent, pretty good wiring. It's not as
It's what,
it's not
200
rake
pounds
and
heavier
everything.
than the other car? At least?
Yeah, the one we bought is like 200 to 300 pounds lighter, but it's simple front radiator, stock tank. But like, people are always like, they think it's like down on power compared to the one we bought. I'm like, it's more car. It drives better.
Yeah.
It's got a bigger intake. It's got more usable power. It's not choked up. It revs out fast. It makes power everywhere. It makes torque everywhere. So I'm like,
that'll be our next thing. If we get the car right, the next thing, I'm a firm believer in the CID intakes. I think we're instrumental in putting that shit out there on the drift scene. A lot of guys are starting to use it now because they saw what that freaking car made.
yeah, we made 100 more on the same dyno, just changing
Now,
the
we
intake.
did do exhaust too,
Yeah.
in its defense. But
the exhaust isn't going to pick up the majority of that
if
100.
if you Google it, there's a YouTube video where that intake on a
Engine dyno.
engine dyno test comparing intakes spanked that intake that's on that car. It spanked that Edelbrock intake by 60 horsepower, I think.
Yeah, the one on the new car we got's
on an
pretty
intake
tiny.
and get 60 horsepower for free.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't cheap, but nothing in racing's
Well,
cheap. So, I mean, it's top of the line shit. I mean, it's pro level stuff.
I mean, it's the same price as the competitors' tunnel rams.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's not more. It's just more when you go from a stock intake.
That's what I'm saying. Most people aren't stock setup.
Yeah, LS3 intake to a freaking CID.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of curious. It was a big investment for us, and yeah, just kind of circling back. We are so comfortable with the storage unit built car, and it's so good. It's proven to be good.
Yeah. Knock on wood. I mean, that we've treated that car good, and it's treated us good. I mean, we take care of it. Like you said, but we take care of it.
It's a good car.
Got some really good advice from people like Rick at RTS. He's like, I called him up, not knowing anything, when we first got the dog box. He's like, look, the way we look at it is every track day, you drain and change the fluid.
Yeah.
Period. And it makes perfect sense. And I've told that to people that had them or got them after us. And we're like, what? I'm like, hey, I'm going by what...
because people are like, I don't want to spend
Rick
that
says.
little extra time and
what
money.
happens when you do it? You pull the plug out. If you chipped a dog gear or something, because that big-ass, strong-ass magnetic plug in there grabs a hold of all that stuff. And you're like, man, we're fixing it. If he starts having problems getting it in the gear, I know why.
Yeah.
So
because we've went through a few dog rings.
And shout out to Rick. When you tear up some shit like that, what do we do? Call him on Sunday? He's like, it's already going to go out tomorrow morning. Red label.
Yeah, he's really good about red labeling.
He's like, pay me
stuff
when you can, get your parts, get your shit fixed, and let's go.
Yeah, Rick and RTS, they really take care of their customers. So shout out to him.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
all of our
he got
sponsors,
us a box.
man.
He got us
All of our
gave us a good
sponsors.
partnership on that. So yeah, pretty much everybody. Oh, well, obviously everybody. That's why we work with them. I'm very true to myself, and I don't like to work with companies that I feel aren't like mutually invested or doing good for drifting in general, but just authenticity as well. So like everybody we work with, I would say I'm pretty cherry picked on. Like you advise me to kind of reach out to some companies sometimes, and then I explain that I don't really agree with
and I
what they're
respect
doing.
that.
Or
that's why I let you handle all that. I mean, I've only handled the car and the tires. Shout out to Brad.
yeah, right. Shout out Brad Locals. Does it bother you at all, or did it ever bother you at all that like, because like when I first started drifting, I would say that I would wrench with you quite a bit. Like we would do stuff in the driveway. We were like,
you helped me do the SR swap until we got to.
But even with the Z, like when we were modifying it, when I first started, it was me and you both, wrenching hard on it. But I hit a point where, I mean, I just was honestly, I was like, I don't like working on cars. Like,
yeah, not everybody does. I don't really.
Did it bother you? It obviously doesn't now, because now you like.
I know it bothers other drivers. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, I know it bothers other drivers.
Other drivers are like, what? You don't know how to do this? Yes, he does know how to do it. He just doesn't do it. I mean, and it doesn't bother me because when I had that Camaro that I think we mentioned it earlier, I got rid of it for two reasons. I got a lot of money for it that I have a problem. I'm like every other gearhead. I build something. When I get done with it, it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah, I don't have anything to work on.
I'm not a guy that goes to car shows to show my shit off. I know what, I like showing it off.
Yeah.
But I don't like going to a car show and popping the hood and everybody goes, wow, why did you use that kind of bolt there? And why did you do this? And where's your car at? Let me see your build. I don't want to deal with that. So when I build something, most of the time, my brother's the same way. We're building a 67 right now. He's building it. I'm helping him a little bit. He's already, we're not even done with it. He's already talking about the guy that buys this is going to be, I'm like, what do you mean the guy that buys this? You said this was your dream car. You know what I'm saying?
It's just like me though.
So when I started thinking about that when I got to that level, remember, because I got the open trailer one. I knew you were going to start drifting. I bought an open trailer before we even had a settled car. On a drift car. Yeah. So I did that, got that ready. And then the Camaro was just sitting there and I was like, I sold it for good money. I needed the garage space. And then, I was like, I was like, if I'm going to invest in my own hot rods, this is my hot rod now. Your car is my hot rod. I'm wrenching on my hot rod. That's what I always tell people. I'm wrenching on my hot rod. You're the driver. Yeah. Exactly. And it sounds weird to say that. It is your car, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly
if I'm not, I don't have time to build that kind of shit now. So, because I'm working on this. So this is my, and I'm getting the satisfaction out of it. And every time we update it, it's like building a whole nother car.
Yeah, because you learn a bunch. Because like we said, you never did anything motorsports racing wise.
Yeah, not
You've
that,
never
not
stuffed a
that
NASCAR transmission in a car, or fucking quick change.
I would have never in my mind,
or
in my
800
life,
900 crank horsepower V8.
I would have been like, "What are you talking about? Putting a dog? What is a dog box? You know what I mean? I remember the first time I got in when we went to the first FD, we had the VIP passes and all that shit. And these guys are pulling up and they're going, I'm like, God dang, they're going to tear their shit up, Yeah. And now I'm like, oh shit, that's the cool thing. Yeah. If you got one of those, that's a good cool. Noise.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, because I'm sure it pisses a lot of people off because, I don't know. I was wondering
just not
if
that guy. And then plus you've been going back and forth to school to Orlando and all that. You're not around.
Like 7 times.
You're not a gearhead.
I'm not.
You like.
I like enthusiasts driving cars.
Yeah, right. You're that kind of guy. So I don't give a crap. I like working on cars. I'll work on cars. Matter of fact, when I get home today, I got to go mess with that 67 that we're doing. I'm going to sort out the wiring on it. Figure out how we're going to do the wiring harness. We're putting a Holly on it and all that stuff. I think he went with a Terminator X on that too because he's running automatic. So, and he's got the one with the Max with the transmission controller. So that'll be kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, I don't look at it like a negative thing. I like wrenching on stuff. And like I said, every time we update the car, it's like kind of like building another car. Yeah. When you build a project car, like I said, I've got a habit of when I get done with it, I'm bored with it. Now I'm done. Now I'm looking for something else. Just like my truck in the garage, the 77. Now I'm like, it's already built, it's already done, 383 stroker. What do I want to do now? I want to stuff an LS in it, just like I like to do everything else. But I'm going to venture down a path I've never been. I'm going to put a twin turbo setup on it.
So, because there's like so many more father-son programs kind of like sprouting up in the scene, I
hope we had something to do with that because a lot of kids have like come up and went, wow, and JC was
he's like, a great example.
He was like, man, you motivated me to get involved with my kids doing this.
And because seeing is believing. Like when you go from watching me and you, just a local father-son at OSW, to like me and you, the father-son pro-am duo, people watch the process. They see what it was at the start and what you being supportive and me being hungry creates. Yeah. And they're like, wow, like my kids got the same energy. I can do it. Yeah. Let's fucking do it.
Well, it's like when you podiumed the first time at Pro-Am at OSW. I think you got third place.
Yeah, third.
Somebody made a comment, look at them, they're all going crazy like they're at like a little league baseball game. I'm like, it is like a little league baseball game when your whole family supports your ass. Yeah. It's cool. Your kids, that's part of molding them. That's and you got to be a parent to know that.
For sure.
If you're not a parent, you don't know that. You're like, what's the big deal? You got third place podium, at Pro-Am. What's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal when you got kids and when those people have kids, they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be wanting to give their kids everything they can and the tools to get them there. Just like the little kid playing Little League that ends up being like Levi that was super good. You know, you buy him a $400 bat and the other parents are like, God,
Yeah.
you're buying a kid a $400 bat when you can get one at freaking Academy for $19.99. You know, yeah, I'm getting him a $400 bat. That's just, he needs that. That's his tool.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, all that's crazy. Kind of went off on a little tangent there.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think there's a guy. He's like a famous Twitch streamer. He goes by Jinxie. He like similar thing. Parents were supportive of him, and he was talking in a video a couple weeks ago, and it resonates with me so well. And if there's like parents watching this, which they probably will because it's an episode with you.
Yeah.
Everybody raises their kids different, but like if there's one thing I can tell you, like as a kid, and Jinxie touched on his video on this, there's no greater power that you can fuel somebody to achieve something than your own parents believing in you to do something. Like,
for sure.
like people don't. We've talked about this because your dad wasn't really supportive of your music path.
Yeah, he
and
was
you let it affect you.
Yeah, he was negative about it. I had some opportunities that I passed up, you know, sitting at a round table with some big executives for music. And just that in my head was telling me I was making the wrong decision. Don't jump.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't. And I'm not going to do that to my kids. So
Yeah.
you learn from your mistakes. You always want your kids to be better. But yeah,
yeah,
it does.
If you can believe in your kids,
yeah, if you believe in your kids, it
because
feels.
I'll tell you right now, like, you know, I'm a pretty individual person. I operate pretty on my own, like in terms of like I like to do things on my own, make decisions on my own. I like to be by myself, but I wouldn't have like the drive and hunger if there's no more power you can feed yourself than your own parents believing in you. Like,
yeah, and that's why people like Nate Hamilton so good at such a young age. Alec,
it's a different fire. So if you have
Jake,
the ability,
you know,
and it doesn't have to be financially, just support your kids with what they do.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be what you want your kids to do.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to pay a dime for it.
But if you can support them, if you can be there, like a lot of people just don't understand what that means. Like, it doesn't have to be monetarily. Like,
yeah. Well, you see the shows where the kid looks back looking for his, you know, mom and dad's divorce.
Yeah.
It's just a weird analogy, but mom and dad's divorce, the little kid's up to bat. You know, where's my dad at? You know, whatever. Well, divorced or not, you know, that kid is always looking for that.
Yeah.
You know, they want to let their parents have that pride in them by, you know,
for sure.
They want to perform well for that. You know,
definitely. And I think a lot of kids aren't ever going to be expressive about it, especially to their own parents. So that's why I kind of put it on the podcast if there are parents watching, because the odds are your kid is never going to express that to you, and they're never going to give you signs that they think like that.
Yeah.
But they certainly do.
Yeah. And by supporting them in a nutshell, it doesn't mean throwing a bunch of money at it.
Yeah, because I was just telling somebody, you could fund my whole program and it wouldn't be the same. Yeah. Like I don't view our like business relationship side of things on the program as like, oh, you pay for things.
Yeah.
It's like you are the 80% piece of the puzzle. Like, you aren't invested in the program. I was telling somebody, you're not invested in the program. Like, you are invested financially, but you are not invested as a financial contribution. Yeah. You are invested as you.
Yeah.
Blood, sweat, and tears, 150%. Like, you know, my rock. So like, it's not about the money. You could, you know, if I was in a different financial position, you could not throw a dime. But if you did everything you do now, wrench on the car, it would be equally as like. Yeah. The fuel would be the same.
But I do think you said something earlier at the beginning of this part of it. I think it's really cool. I've noticed it because we're all like a family at OSW. We kind of slacked off a little bit when we were competing and not went there a lot.
Yeah, just money-wise, it's expensive.
But, well, we just didn't have a shit car, beater car, you know, meth missile.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And in between events.
We need to get the meth missile out there. But, you know, we get out there, and now you see all these dads. And then the next thing you know, you see the moms.
Very cool.
And you're like, damn, you look around, you go, now they're getting it. You know, and the dads and moms are all just hanging out in the pits, having a good old time.
It's very, very cool.
You know, whether they know anything about the car or not, some of them do. A lot of the dads that wrench on cars, they're out there wrenching on their cars next to their sons, you know, fixing stuff on trackside, you know, and that stuff's, you don't want your car to break down. That's cool, man. Fixing your car at the track. You know, I used to go, man, why do these guys all fix your car before you get here?
We'll definitely
This
fix
is
it
drifting.
before you get there.
Every time you show up, though, it might work when you get there, but it's possibly going to break.
Yeah, but definitely don't excuse the people that show up to the track with their car
Oh, yeah,
broken.
don't fix it there.
It's the worst thing
to
you
drift.
do. It
Fix it
happens
before you
way
get
too
there.
much.
Yeah. And if you do have a problem and you put a trackside fix on it, please take it home and fix it the right way.
Yeah, don't
before you
leave the
bring it back.
trackside fix on it.
Oh my God, I hate it when people do that.
Yep. Well, damn, Dad, thank you for coming on. We've been trying to cook this up for a while. We'll have to do another episode because there's just too much to cover. But no, it's cool.
Probably talk a little too much. I got a little bit of that double espresso in that coffee a while ago, man. I'm kind of singing.
Good,
but
you're good. No, thank you for coming on. Obviously, you helped piece the podcast together and make it what it is. And
yeah,
I wanted
wish you
to
luck
set
on
it
that.
up. Thank you. I appreciate
much
it.
success, because I mean,
You supporting me on something. Like
yeah,
this is
you
a prime
got
example.
you got a lot of friends that give you good advice, and you know, shout out to all those guys. They know who they are. I mean,
Definitely.
and especially drifting is like that. Everybody helps each other at different levels. You know, it's like they help you unlock the little secrets.
Yeah, little by little.
You know, and they don't do that when they first meet you. They wait till they see you out there. They see you getting good, and they see you struggling a little bit, and they go, "Hey, man, you still got a rear sway bar on that thing?"
Yeah, I mean, you can take whatever the horse to water thing is.
Yeah, little tricks.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. We'll have to do another episode. People can find you on Instagram at Papavedo. I pretty much handle your Instagram-ish.
Yeah.
He watches and messages, but I try and, guide him. So at Papavedo, Papavedo. What are we doing? We got testing next week and then Pro-Am after that. So people will see us out there. We'll probably launch this episode this week.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
And get it rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking time to come down and visit.
Hey, enjoyed it. I'm
Couple
glad.
hour trip. So
yeah, it was worth coming down and watching FD and cramming this in there. Hopefully,
yeah,
Nate
we've been
will
trying to
give
do
you a
this
buzz.
for a minute. So, but thank you guys for watching another episode of Off Grid. This is Ryan Acevedo, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you.